Good morning. We're going to be talking today about the care and maintenance of our hose tester, a basic review of hose testing, labeling, and entering into the new Hive digital hose cards. We've had a lot of instances where our hose testers have been blown up due to cavitation. So I have an example today here where we've hooked it up to the discharge of an engine. The engine can be used as a supply, no more than 50 psi to the hose test pump. The preferred would be a hydrant source at your station. We're not pressurizing the hose with any of our engines. We're just using this as your supply with a garden hose or something like that into the tank to replenish for all of your tested hose. As you can see, I have a short piece of soft suck hose here, and we're going to come over and talk about our hose tester. To start out with, you want to have this main valve in the open position, and that's going to feed all of your pipes and the main supply part for your pressure point on the hose tester. After you've brought water to the hose tester, it's very important to open this bleeder valve. Without bleeding this hose tester first, we were blowing up the pumps and by cavitation. So please open this up, flow some water, and then close it back up. After you've hooked up all of your hose, maximum of 300 feet, you can go ahead, bleed all the water out of your hose, and come over here and close the main supply line to the pump while leaving your fire engine in pump at idle, and it will now bring the water over to the pressure side or the intake side of the pump and start developing the pressure. Without closing this valve, it basically creates a loop and you never generate pressure. In order to set the pressure on your pump, there's a small knob here. It's basically clockwise to increase the pressure, counterclockwise to back it off. A review your pressures here, and remember you want to have that pressure set at whatever the designated pressure for a minimum of 5 minutes. After your test is complete, you can bleed it out of the end nozzles or out of this port here or any of the unoccupied ports on the tester. After you've drained out your hose tester and put it away inside and you need to transport it, you put the regular caps back on the hose tester so we don't foul the threads or shear off this point. In the policy, it talks about system testing your pre-connected lines. So your pre-connected lines, we're encouraging everybody to test them with the nozzle in place along with the blitz line in the back. Because we're relabeling the hose to the engine number, that's the 4-digit number. Here we're utilizing 949 and its 4-digit number is 5121. We need to re-engrave the hose. We're going to provide with the hose testers an angle grinder with a flap disc type grinding wheel and a Dremel or other type of engraver. We realize it's a fairly large project for some engines in order to engrave all of these, but when you go to enter the numbers in the new hose card system, we're trying to create a standard for the whole department. That way we can catch a lot of the newly acquired hose and re-engrave them. And the goal behind this is once we put a piece of hose on the engine, it will stay with that engine for the life of that engine and eventually be retired. So we don't have to move hose from engine to engine based on the rotations throughout our fleet. If you have a hose that's been labeled on the jacket, just simply delete it with an X or some sort of line with indelible ink and go ahead and re-engrave on the end of the female coupling. We have an example here of our fire hose labeling. We've ground off the engine number and replaced it with a 4-digit ID. We're using 949 today. It's 5121 instead of engine 949. We have the stick number, and then we also have the year in service of the hose. As far as wildland hose, we are testing wildland hose, both the 1.5 inch and the inch. And I have an example here, basically where we've tested this hose for the last 3 years. and we're just marking it on the end of the hose, male, female side, with the month and year that the hose was tested. If your hose fails during testing, please mark it with flagging tape or tape directly where the failure is. You can send it in the service center, and they have hose repair capabilities. And if you follow the policy, they'll reissue either new hose, you can put a new number on that, or reissue the old hose if it's been repaired. If you have any questions, please review the policy. It's fairly complete now. It addresses many of the issues. It identifies the battalion coordinators for the hose testers. It identifies who tests relief rigs. It also identifies care and maintenance of the surge engines. That would be the 800 series rigs. Any additional questions, you can contact myself in the training section or the service center as far as what to do with broken and failed hose. Also, feel free to look at the video on how to enter your hose cards into the Hive system. Should be a fairly lengthy project for the department, but once we have that all done digitally, we can eliminate the hose cards entirely and just keep them on the intranet. If you've already tested hose this year, we highly encourage you to relabel your hose at some point this year, and we'll be checking the database for completion. And thank you for your time.